Dear students, now we are coming towards the end of our module 2. We have been discussing about the cross sectional elements, and along with cross sectional elements we started discussing about the various elements which are defined by road furniture. And under road furniture, one important thing which we have discussed so far is the pavement markings, and those pavement markings we talked about for the longitudinal profiles, for the transverse profiles, for the objects, for the messages, for the arrows, drivers conditions, or we also talked about the what type of material which can be used and what is the specification of that material. So, that is what we have covered so far in our this module. Now, today we are going to talk about the road signs. The road signs can also be defined as the traffic signs. Now, when you are moving on a road, lot of information as we discussed can be provided by way of the marking at the top of the pavement, but there are certain things which needs to be provided by way of a visual device which is being provided at certain height at the side of the pavement. So, we are taking the distance from the surface of the pavement, and that is going to define that what exactly is happening ahead of this particular section and what needs to be done by a driver in those typical conditions. So, when we are looking at these traffic signs or road signs, a variety of that are there, and if you have been moving on a road, you might have observed them being placed at the side of the carriageway, defining certain or different type of information being given to you. Now, when you talk about these road signs or the traffic signs, what is the objective providing these? The objective is one and the foremost is that we want to maintain the safety of users as well as the safety of any other item which has been placed either on the carriageway or on the side of the carriageway. So, we are talking about this property includes everything in that form. So, we are talking about any infrastructural provision which is being done in that area. Apart from that we are trying to maintain the safety, we are also interested that our road functions the way it is being designed to function, and that is where the efficiency of the system is being talked. The road on which the traffic is moving, that should move at a particular speed, at a particular level of service, in different lanes, in different directions, at different point of a time. So, whatever those things are there, we need to maintain every type of efficiency in the system, and that is where the directives, information, restrictions, prohibitions, everything whatever are going to be there, they are going to be provided in the form of an information to the driver by way of the provision of road signs. Now, when we look at the road signs here, just typical some examples are being talked about. They are not the complete set, we are going to look at those things in the subsequent slides. What you find is that there is a first one which is an octagonal in nature, which has a white border, which has a red background, and the top of it is stop is being written in white. So, this is a stop sign, and it tries to tell you, you stop, look around, and if the conditions are fine, then only you should move ahead, otherwise keep waiting at that particular location. If I talk about the another one where it is written like a speed limit 50, it says that you should move at a speed of 50 kilometers per hour or less than that, but not more than that. So, here this is a typical sign which is being provided, but this one is basically a definition plate, and this definition plate is going to be provided below a sign which otherwise is going to tell that this is a typical speed limit sign. Then there is another sign which says that do not enter. So, if there is a horizontal bar, it says that the entry is not allowed from this direction. And says to make it more specific, what is being done here is that the words are also being used at the top and bottom of this particular horizontal white bar on the red background, and it says do not enter. So, if somebody is not being able to understand what this horizontal bar says, at least they can read and understand that. You can see in the other case there are certain restrictions being defined. Say it's the first one says that the left turn is not allowed. So, left turn is being drawn and then it is being crossed. In another case it says that the U turn is not being allowed. In the third case, it says a specific type of vehicle is not being allowed, and these are the cases of a combination. So, what you find is that there is a sign board here and there is a definition plate at the bottom of it, so as to further strengthen what exactly is being defined by the signboard at the top of it. So, what it means is that when we have to ensure safety and efficiency, we can utilize the different things in different forms. Our objective is that the user should be able to understand without trying to comprehend the situation, and by the time the driver or the user comprehends that, there is always some event which has taken place which is not good in nature. So, when we talk about these road signs, then what are the basic requirements of any road sign or a traffic sign? Say, as I said, that there is a stop sign or there is a no entry sign, and no entry sign has a horizontal bar and the people are not understanding that, then there is no utility of that particular sign being placed at a location. People will keep violating, and as an enforcement agency you will keep penalizing those people, and then there is going to be a rift. Where the sign is being provided, you provided the sign just along a tree and the branches have come down and therefore the sign is not visible. So, where it is being placed, at what location, at what height, whether it is in the viewing frame in the vertical or the horizontal dimension. So, all of these things needs to be looked at. So, in that direction, when we try to talk about the various basic requirements of a sign, then it comes out to be the following. What it says is that the very first thing is that it should fulfill a need. For what reason this is being provided? You want to stop the vehicles? Then you need a stop sign. The another sign is not going to work. So, what is that operational aspect? You need to restrict the speed, you need to restrict the type of vehicle movement on a particular road, you need to restrict the width or the height of a vehicle. What exactly is that which you are trying to do, or you are trying to tell that you need to go to take a right turn or a left turn mandatorily? All of these things are going to be defined by this road sign or a traffic sign. Another thing is that it should command attention. The way the sign is being designed and being placed, whether it is readable or not, it is understandable or not, it is visible or not. The sign is being placed at a location some 10 years back and it is not being maintained, and therefore, now it is very difficult to understand what exactly it is trying to depict. So, we need to see the placement, we need to see the maintenance of those particular signs, and at the same time we have to ensure that the signs are readable when the vehicles are moving at a speed. So, the vehicles may be moving at a speed of 30 kilometers per hour, they may be moving at a speed of 100 kilometers per hour. In both of these conditions, the same sign probably is not going to work, and that is where we have to take care of it. Then these signs, they should have a clear and simple meaning, no complex thing. There is nobody who is going to have a lot of time to understand what you are trying to tell as a traffic engineer or a planner by placing that particular road sign at the side of a road or a carriageway. So, it is a design aspect, how it is being designed, how the letters have been designed, what is the size of the letters, what is the type of the design which is being provided in terms of say a picture or an arrow, and whether it is trying to tell what exactly it should tell. Whether it is happening or not, that is what we are trying to look at here. It should command respect from the road users. Of course, this is important. You say you go mandatory left, people say, no, I am not going to left, I am going to right, I am going to straight, and you do not have a measure to stop the people from doing those type of maneuvers which have been restricted at a point of a time, then there is no use of providing these type of signs at a certain location. So, a road is being blocked or closed ahead for some reason, and the people still are interested to move along, that is not a good sign. And that is where the legal and enforcement type of aspects needs to be attached to the road signs, so that whenever those type of things have been provided, people respect them, follow them, and the implementation of road signs will have the functional value only in that case. The next thing is that the time to respond is also an important aspect. and that is also related with the placement, that is also related with the way the signs have been oriented with respect to the direction of travel. The vehicles are traveling in this form, and we have provided a sign like this, or we have provided a sign like this. So, this is facing to the vehicle and this is at 90 degrees to the vehicle. Obviously, this is going to be a wrong one unless and until it is trying to tell something when the vehicles are going to stop here, say in the perpendicular direction to the travel, then only probably this is going to have a utility. Now, this orientation and placement is also have one aspect, that there is a situation which is happening here. So, you have a road and there is some situation at this particular point and you have provided a sign here. So, a sign is being provided somewhere here like this, or a sign is being provided at this location which is at a distance d, which is going to be right. Obviously, this location is not perfect, because if there is something due to which a driver has to take a decision and it is not being provided at a distance d, by which the driver has the sufficient time to respond to the situation, to the information being given by way of the placement of the typical road sign, it is not going to have a usefulness. So, a time to respond also needs to be looked at, and that is where this distance d becomes quite important. And the another thing is the uniformity of the design. This uniformity of the design needs to be looked at across cities, across states, across regions, within a nation or a country, and more beyond that across nations. This is an important aspect. I, as a driver, I am driving in Delhi, but when I reaches Bengaluru, I found that the signs are totally different, and therefore, I am being habitual for the signs in Delhi. I am not being able to comprehend what the situation is trying to be depicted by way of those signs in Bengaluru, and therefore, I am going to commit errors. I may fall myself in a hazardous situation, or may fall others, road users, in hazardous situation by way of my acts. And the same is true not only with respect to the east, west, north, south, central regions of a country, but it is also with respect to the across the countries or the nations, because if somebody comes from outside, took a vehicle, drove by themselves, himself or herself, then they should also be able to understand that what the signs are trying to tell them. And if they are not compatible across the boundaries, if your uniformity is not being ensured, then this is going to transform and translate into the hazardous situations. So, this is why this is an important thing which needs to be looked at. So, when we have a sufficient idea that why we are going to provide the signs and what are the things which needs to be ensured when we are going to place a sign to show certain information, let us look at the various types of signs which are there, and you have gone through these particular things before also at a BTech level, maybe in the second year or third year, wherever you had the first basic course of say a highway engineering or a traffic engineering, maybe you have studied that there. When you talk about these road signs, there are three categories as such. The first category has again the three types of things, either they are regulatory in nature, they are prohibitory in nature, or mandatory in nature. Regulatory means it tries to regulate the movement of the traffic. Say it says the directional movement, you have to take left because the road is being closed further. So, take left here, some sort of that regulation are we are talking about. So, that sort of regulation we are looking at. Prohibitory conditions, there is a requirement that you should be towards your right only. So, you are going to take the turns towards the right even if there is left being available. So, those mandatory prohibitory conditions are going to be there. Prohibitory I also talked about, like we say that the type of vehicles which are allowed. In many of the cities what happens is that the trucks are not being allowed to come in the city, say from 6 o'clock in the morning to 10 p.m. in the evening. So, that sort of a prohibition is there. So, we need to inform that to the truck drivers, and the truck drivers will remain out of the limits, municipal limits, and they will utilize the road space in the night only. The another set is the cautionary or the warning sign, which defines that there is something which has happened on the road ahead on this particular stretch and needs your attention as a driver to see that you have to ensure that nothing wrong happens. Or there can be an information or a guidance sign which tries to give you an information, say there is a restaurant ahead on this particular road, or there is a petrol pump ahead on this particular road, or this road is going to take you to Delhi, or this road is going to take you to Mumbai. So, that is a sort of an information which can be there. There can lot many other informations also, and we are going to look at those things in subsequent discussion. Now, when you talk about the first one, that is regulatory or prohibitory signs followed by the mandatory signs. The regulatory and prohibitory signs, they are circular in shape. They have a red ring along the periphery of that circle. The background is white in color, and on that particular white background the symbols are being provided, or the letters are being provided, or the arrows are being provided, which are black in color. So, this is a overall composition of a regulatory or a prohibitory sign: circles, red rings, white backgrounds and black notations. But when you look at the mandatory signs, though they are still circular in shape, but they have a blue background, and on that blue background we have a white color symbol, and sometimes there may be a black color arrow, etc., probably as also being utilized in some conditions. So, these are the set of regulatory, prohibitory or mandatory signs, the way they are being differentiated by design. Within these regulatory and prohibitory signs, there are exceptions too. The first exception is related to the stop sign, which is octagonal in nature, it is not circular in nature. And instead of having a red rings, it has the white rings, and instead of having a white background, it has a red background, and the notations which are being done, instead of being in black, they are white notations. So, that is a one change which is there. When you talk about the give way or the yield sign, then this is an inverted triangle, and this inverted triangle of course has the boundaries which are red, background which is white, and the notation as a word message which is give way being written in black. So, that is a type of exception which is there in these cases. What you can see is a number of prohibitory or mandatory signs being defined here. What you find is that there is a prohibition to go ahead, or there is a one way sign, traffic can move in only of one particular direction. Now, what direction it can move is being defined by way of which is not being cut and which is being cut, or there is a condition that the street has been declared a vehicle free street. So, the both directional movement has been stopped on that. It may be a temporary condition, it may be a permanent condition. Motor vehicles are being prohibited, or the trucks are being prohibited, right turn is being prohibited, or the pedestrians are not being allowed, or the cycle or the hand cart or the tonga or the bullock cart not allowed. So, whatever are the situations, they are being depicted by here. They can also be depicted by way of the length limit. What can be the maximum length of a vehicle which can be there on this particular road, or it can be a limit on the load. So, it can carry 5 tons, or a height not more than 3.5 meters, otherwise they are going to stuck here. The width can also be defined, or there is an axle limit, that how much axle load is going to be there, because the roads have been designed accordingly. There can be a speed limit. So, 50 is being written, means the limit is up to 50 kilometers per hour. This is the restriction and sign. We have seen that when we were discussing about the markings, and specifically in the previous interaction too. No parking and no stopping and no standing. So, one line which is inclined and the 2 cross lines defines that. And then we have the mandatory signs, because they are on a blue background, and it says compulsory ahead, or keep left, or left turn, or a right turn, or compulsory put a horn, or you should not put a horn can also be there, or the cycle track, or the directional movements which are there. And these are the possibilities which we can look at. When we are talking about this, and there is a situation which we are talking that it is appearing at this point. So, the event occurs here. So, we are going to provide some sign at a certain distance and the vehicle is moving here. So, the driver is at this particular point in a lane. So, this driver is going to look at the signs from this location. Okay. So, that is what I am saying, the event, instead of that, say let us I put it as a sign here. So, driver is moving. So, this is an angle at which the driver is going to look towards the sign, and this particular area needs to be clear of any obstruction, otherwise the driver is not going to be able to understand and comprehend and act according to that particular sign. So, we are talking about here is a visibility funnel and the clearances which needs to be there in that particular funnel. Now, another thing is that how we are going to define the location for a stop or a give way sign. The conditions are similar, and the condition says that here this one is basically for give way, that is why they are being shown as a broken line, but if it is a stop then it will be continuous line. It can be a set of a single one line or can be set of two lines being placed parallel to each other, 100 mm with a 100 mm gap or something like that, which we have discussed previously. And instead of give way marking, which is an inverted triangle on the pavement surface, it can be like written as a stop. There is a sign being placed at a distance d, and that distance d can be like 1.5 meter or maximum 12 meters being provided from the nearest edge of the perpendicular lines which are being provided with respect to the direction of movement. So, that is how we are going to place our signs and define it or tell the driver that what exactly is there. The another set is the cautionary or the warning signs. Now, these cautionary or the warning signs, as I said, they are going to tell the driver that what exactly is happening ahead, and therefore, you need to be attentive to that and react to that accordingly. So, it alerts the driver of the possible dangers which may be there, and they have been differentiated with respect to the regulatory or the prohibitory signs by way of a shape, and they are triangular in nature. So, if as soon as you find that there is a triangular sign, it means there is something typical and a warning is being given to you. Still the border remains red, the background remains white, and the symbol remains black. So, here what it says is that it is a right hand curve. So, you need to be cautious, and specifically if you are in an hilly area and you are not cautious enough and you start taking a left turn, whereas it was a right turn, then only the God knows what may happen. So, there can be a right hand pin or a left hand pin, or there can be a zigzag condition, means there is a reverse curve which is going towards the right hand side or the left hand side, or there is the steep gradient, you can go up or you can come down of it depending on the direction the sign is going to be there. There may be a man at walk, there may be a crossing, there may be a median opening. Okay, so, there can be a slippery road ahead, or there is a bridge which is narrow in nature. There are people who are crossing the road. What type of people? Pedestrians or the school children. There are roads which are there at cross, which are there at sides, which may be major or minor in nature, or they may be staggered in nature. You may find that there is a roundabout height, or there is a hump, or there is a railway crossing which is guarded or which is not guarded. So, when the door is being shown or the gate is being shown, it means it is a guarded situation being provided at that. So, likewise there is a different thing which can be depicted in terms of the what type of warning which is to be given to a driver. Now, if you look at here, then what you can find is that here there are like two-way traffic, there are traffic which is coming on a driveway which is constrained or concealed in certain regions at certain point because of the type of thing which is being provided on the roadside. Okay, there can be like the different type of animals which are going to cross the road, wild animals or the cattle, that can be a possibility. Then there is a railway crossing, motor gate or different type of grades, height restrictions, lathe, ascent or descents, uneven roads. So, whatever type of things are there, they are going to be depicted by way of these things. The third set of road signs are information or guide signs, and they are going to give you an information on as I said, the city, which city is there ahead of you, in which particular direction, which is the place, what type of facilities are going to be there, and these are rectangular in shape. So, this is now the third shape which is coming. We talked about the circular, we talked about triangular, we talked about now rectangular. Apart from this, there was an inverted triangle and there was an octagon. Now, when you are talking about the direction signs, now in the case of direction signs, what you find is that there are different colors which is being used so as to define the different type of roads or the functional values of those particular roads. For the expressways and the urban city roads, the blue background is being used. In the case of national highways, state highways and the major district roads, the green background is being used. And for the village roads or the ODR, then we have the white background. So, these are the three colors which we are using on these particular rectangular boards so as to provide an information. Now, the border name arrows, they are usually in white except for ODR and VR, in which case because the background is white, then these are being depicted in black color. So, what you can see here is an information sign. So, this is an information sign which is a rectangular in shape and the background is green. So, if we go back, the green background is here for NH, SH and MDR. It means this has been provided on any of these three categories of roads. But if you look about this one, this is on either an expressway or an urban road. The same is a condition here. So, it is an urban section, there is a expressway section. In between we have a white background with the black color thing being written on it. So, it is like ODR or VR being provided here. Then there can be different information or guide signs, and these information and guide signs can be related to different type of facilities. So, what we can do is that we can stop our interaction here and we will be discussing about these different type of information signs related to the various facilities in the another interaction which is going to be there. So, we will be continuing our discussion on these particular type of facility signs in the next interaction. Till then, thank you and bye.